The action gets an entire country banned, so without further ado, here are 10 times football players were caught cheating. In this case, let us have an example of a match between Sevilla and Real Madrid in 2017, where one wouldn't stop trying to attack Ronaldo. At this time, the referee gave Madrid a free shot of penalty, and with Ronaldo preparing to kick the ball, fans were sure that he was going to make it a goal. Knowing this, Steven Nzonzi attempted to unsettle Ronaldo for the match through some cute techniques. Ronaldo was fuming with anger. He almost responding back, but managed to calm down and then took the penalty and scored it past the embarrassed Nzonzi. The incident was like a bad joke, a try that failed miserably, and as for jokes, let's recall some of the tricks which defenders in the teams of the Premier League used to employ on the field during the times that were considered more bright by the contemporary standards. Consider an example of the League Cup match of Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspur. In one of the matches, Villa's striker Nicolas Helenius was in an excellent position to score a goal for his team, but rather comically fell flat on the pitch instead. The reason? There were terrific screams from the stands because Tottenham defender Jan Vertonghen had pulled his shorts down. Even more astonishing was that the referee failed to call for a penalty, and this was so to the delight of Vertonghen. But let's be honest, if you tried that in a modern game, you would most likely get a card, if not a punch, from an angry opponent. You have to admit there is something entertaining about Helenius falling on the floor, just as there was about Mohamed Salah's stage dive in a game in 2021. As it took place in the Premier League, it was always going to be an important showdown between Liverpool and Manchester City, while more importantly for Salah, his team desperately wanted to break their poor sequence of losses on their own ground. At last, Salah went down parading the opportunity as though he was performing the mimic set of a dolphin in a show. The only issue was that Manchester City's backline was well drilled. Thus, when Mohamed Salah saw that he could not go through a rather compact defense in order to achieve an obvious goal, he had a no-hope choice: become a diver. To be frank, instead of scoring, Salah went for a dive, in an attempt to con the referee into giving him a penalty. Oh, what was that? Now, after such a dive, it will not be surprising if soon Salah becomes the dolphin. While that is as funny as one can imagine, the situation that happened when Yohan Cabaye and his teammate decided to have a messed up free kick has to be crazy. It was a Premier League match between Newcastle and Stoke City, which they got the free kick, which was taken at the edge of the box. This looked like it was going to be another routine kick until Cabaye was about to take it, and that is when all hell broke loose. Now we seen that organized by Rito Ziegler was booked by Yohan Cabaye, and Cabaye and Steven Taylor had found a loophole in the rules. Fixtures: you can place your own players anywhere on the box, including right in front of the goalkeeper. Thus, when the ball was with Cabaye, Taylor placed himself right in front of the Stokes goalie so that he could not see him. The crazy part? It worked. Taylor positioned himself directly in front of the keeper and blind, and Cabaye struck. Since then, I have not seen anyone attempt the trick, and I presume that the trick must have been outlawed. And talking about the ban, who should have been banned during the 2022 World Cup quarter-final match against the Netherlands, Lionel Messi. This match could not have been just another sour between Messi and his predecessors, as it clearly had a lots more to do than moving to the semi-finals. This actually brought up memories of the hand of God, and it had been 36 years since Diego Maradona arguably committed this famous but unsavory act during the Argentina-England match in 1986 FIFA World Cup. Now, Messi was leading his country at the same stage of the tournament, and it looked like he was trying to make his legend of his own. Though this time, it wasn't exactly a lapse of divine intervention. So when Messi tried to pay encomium to Diego Maradona in the 2022 edition of the World Cup, things did not pan out as envisaged. Someone should have thought it right for him to know that during Maradona hand of God, it was in the box where he could make the goal. Nevertheless, Messi got caught with his hands in the cookie jar, literally, more like 4K figuratively. Thankfully for Messi, he wasn't sent off. But not all can have that kind of luck, let alone Luis Suarez. The last time Suarez tasted success in the World Cup was in 2010 in South Africa, where Uruguay faced Ghana in the quarterfinals. Ghana was within the thick of making history, as the Aki team was only a goal away from localism, the first African side to reach the semi-finals. The last few moments of the extra time, a shot at the goal post was on its way from the Ghana team until Suarez evidently told himself there was no place for fairy tales. He with his bare hands touched the ball on the goal line, and this saw him get a red card as a result. Asamoah Gyan came with hope of scoring, but he was a savior as he did not make it, and thus Uruguay won the match through a penalty shootout, in getting Ghana out of the tournament. Suarez became an epitome of football hooliganism, and the player that is loathed by fans in not one but two different countries. But only 4 years later, Suarez returned into the limelight for reasons that were not overly positive. At the World Cup match between Uruguay and Italy, the Italians understood that they had to contain Suarez at all costs. It was up to Giorgio Chiellini to make sure he stayed close to him for the 90 minutes. Angered by the rigorous highlighting, Suarez did what is unbelievable in view of the fact that he erupted like a canine and bit Chiellini. FIFA wasn't having it and Suarez was banned for 5 months for his bite. One does wonder whether he considers the meal to be worth all that trouble, both at time of preparation and the overall value derived from it. It looked like a scene out of Dracula where Suarez himself was portraying Count Dracula, but that wasn't the end of it, as there were others willing to do everything for their team. In December, during the Spanish Super Cup final between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, Fede Valverde risked his all for triumph. Atletico had begun and initiated a deadly counter-attacking move, and suddenly Alvaro Morata is on the rampage with the intention of scoring. The real Morata itself, who was not willing to lose the first Super Cup final, made a split-second decision and brought down the Spaniard with a stunning tackle from the back. It was a professional foul, and they managed to do it. Better still, in a post-match interview, Valverde said he only made the decision after seeing that his captain, Sergio Ramos, was urging him from the other end of the pitch take out Morata in the end. Real Madrid was to triumph in the Super Cup on penalties, and Valverde was hailed as a hero. Sergio Ramos is exactly a master of the dark arts. There is nothing this man will not do within and outside the pitch to claim victory. For instance, in the case of Real Madrid playing against Ajax in this year's Champions League round of 16. After the first leg, Ramos realized he had a potential problem. This man was already a yellow card plus, and if he got another one he would be ejected out of the quarter-final, which would most probably be against Juventus. Thus Ramos came up with strategies to utilize those behaviors to empower his wrestler of choice. Knowing that after scoring their second goal they are almost through to the next round, Ramos decided to get caution so that he could miss the second leg, which is less important than this quarter-final stage. But the masterstroke turned out to be a disaster for him. In the second leg, Ajax made one of the biggest shocks in the history of Champions League. They beat Madrid 4-1 and eliminated them from the tournament. Ramos had to sit and watch his team getting humiliated on the field, all because of the calculated risk he had taken. With this in mind, one can only daydream if Toney had bet on Ramos getting sent off, because as far as cheating goes, Toney's name must be near the top dot, and while there is cheating on the field, Toney's cheating came off it. His gambling problem reached a peak that could not even let him watch the football games for 8 months, as the FA decreed last season. This has been going to mountain top, with Toney placing bets on his own performances, including betting on himself to score in games. When the FA learnt about his gambling, they suspended him immediately. However, that was not the end of it. Toney had also bet on his own team to lose, which proved that there is more to it, and that is when his club, Brentford, stepped in. Instead of leaving him, they decided to stand behind him and take him to receive the necessary help through the rehabilitation. However, the case of Toney, his ban is almost done. The man is ready and eager to get back on track. Finally, he had his problem solved, and there's every possibility that it should have a happy ending. As you can see, Toney spent months in prison thinking and rehabilitating. In a few weeks he'll be back on the field, ready to start scoring goals. Perhaps he has more time now on his hands. He had enough time to binge watch all shows, including FC Freak, before you're going to do so by hitting the subscribe button.